even if I have to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair, so long as I'm able to interact with my children, I'm going to be the happiest man in the world.
Once you knew you were shot and you had come to the realization of that, did you have any moment of your mind while it took time for, like in that 3 hours, I'm sure you get this question a lot. What were the things that were going through your mind? Were there regrets? Were there things that you thought, okay, if I live through this, I'm going to do this differently, better, or change?
There were no moments where I said I would change anything. And to kick to the end, prior to giving you some more insight, after the shooting, I was assessed by the police psychologist as to whether I was able to go back into Star Group. I'd also had assessment by an exterior psychiatrist who had said that there was no PTSD, no stress, no anxiety, all those sorts of things. And we only had one meeting. And he said at that meeting that I could go back to work the next day without any reservations. This was just 3 months after the shooting. And he also said I never needed to come back and see him again. So my psychology was in a good place. Prior to the shooting, our police psychologist gave us tests every year. Being in Star Group, high intensity, high demand on our emotions. So we were tested to see whether we had PTSD or any signs of stress. If change has happened, I want to know what it is. Tell me how I've changed. So that was a very vulnerable want for some introspection as to what was happening to me. The answer I got is not the answer I was exactly looking for, but it's an interesting answer anyway. The psychologist just sat there, hand-faced, and he said, Derrick, you were crazy before, you're crazy now, there has been no change. So it's not the answer I wanted, but it was kind of confirmation that I hadn't changed, and I felt very comfortable in that myself. But this was kind of a confirmation. I spoke about this before. I took responsibility on 4 levels. The first one, I took responsibility for my choice to put myself in those circumstances. I took responsibility for the actions that I was going to take, and that was all the things that I was going to do within Star Group. I took responsibility for the possible consequences. Now, the consequence that I was really looking forward to was all the excitement. Jumping in and out of helicopters, getting to go into dangerous situations and be able to manage them. There was an adrenaline kick in there for me, but I also took responsibility for the possible negative consequences as well. But then I took responsibility for the future afterwards. And I did that before I made the final choice to say yes. So I said, if I get shot, what might the future look like? And I said to my wife, this is a discussion we had, I said, anything better than death is going to be a bonus. And even if I have to live the rest of my life in a wheelchair, so long as I'm able to interact with my children, I'm going to be the happiest man in the world. Yes, it's possibly going to be difficult. There's going to be awkward situations. It's not going to be as much fun. But mentally, so long as I'm able to interact with my children, that's my main drive for my whole life.
I think it's so important. You're talking about an internal locus of control versus an external locus of control. And the way I say that to leaders is it's Buzz Lightyear versus Eeyore, right? The world's happening to me. Oh my gosh, the sun isn't shining today versus let's go take on the world. Let's go do this. Let's go do epic things. And so being able to take that internal locus of control to say, I make an impact on the world doesn't impact me. Sure, these things happen, but I still now have a choice to choose my attitude, choose my approach, all of those pieces. And it is all related to higher performance. Conversely, external locus of control is related to low performance, depression, all of the other pieces that no matter what I do, I'm doomed to this fate. Yep. And so it is a key and critical element of making sure that you stay in that moment of choice. I did this, I own it, and now what's my path forward?